So it's February 2026, and if you look at the broad UK labor market, things have definitely cooled down a bit since the frenzy we saw a few years ago. But if you glance over at the energy sector, specifically the line to get plugged into the national grid, well, it's a totally different story.
Oh, yeah, it's a completely different world.
Right, and the connection queue right now is just absolutely massive. We are talking about over 738 gigawatts of capacity just waiting in line.
Which is honestly a staggering number, just to put that in perspective for you. If we want to hit our 2030 net zero targets, we really only need about 200 to maybe 225 gigawatts.
So effectively, we have 3 times what we actually need just stuck in traffic.
Exactly, stuck in traffic.
And that bottleneck is really the backdrop for our deep dive today. We have a source document called the 2026 Micro-Vertical Strategy for Envo Talent in UK Solar and BESS Hiring.
Yeah, and our mission with this deep dive is to unpack how the industry is shifting from this early stage green hype into a phase of actual operational delivery.
Right, it's a really sharp distinction because for a long time, the industry was all about the intent to build, right? Like so securing land rights, raising capital, the paper pipeline.
Yeah, the paper pipeline. But Envo Talent is completely pivoting their hiring strategy because of one really specific regulatory change, and that is the Gate 2 grid reforms.
This is that massive filter, isn't it? The grid operator basically introduced a use it or lose it policy
to clear out the queue. Gate 2 is designed to ruthlessly kill off all those zombie projects. If you can't prove you have the land, the finance, and most importantly, the technical readiness, you get terminated from the queue.
Wow. So for a specialist recruiter like Envo, this just completely changes the game.
Oh, absolutely. They aren't interested in general renewables roles anymore. If a job doesn't directly help a project survive Gate 2 or keep an asset running, they just aren't touching it.
Okay, so let's look at who actually survives this filter. The strategy breaks this down into 3 core micro verticals. The first one is arguably the most painful bottleneck right now, which is grid connections.
This is the absolute front line. And we aren't talking about general project managers here. The source material highlights a desperate need for grid connections managers and compliance engineers.
These are the people dealing with the highly specific technical codes like G99, right? That's the engineering recommendation you absolutely have to meet to connect a generator to the grid.
It is, and it's incredibly technical. You need engineers who can actually speak the language of the DNOs, the distribution network operators.
Right, because if you don't have a compliance engineer who can navigate that interface and tick all those G99 boxes, your solar farm is basically just a field of expensive glass.
Exactly. It will never generate a single penny. And Envo is betting that while the big developers have internal teams for this, the SMEs, the smaller developers are the ones who are drowning. They simply can't find these people.
Which brings us to their strategic wedge. They are specifically targeting those owner-led SMEs where the pain of a vacancy is immediate.
Yeah, because if your grid manager quits, the project might literally fail Gate 2. It's a super high-stakes environment where a vacancy isn't just an annoyance, it is an existential threat to the whole project.
Okay, so let's say you do survive Gate 2. You finally get connected. That leads us directly into the second vertical the strategy outlines, which is solar O&M, so operations and maintenance.
Which really represents that shift from just building to actually servicing. The industry is maturing. We're moving away from construction, which only takes a few months, to the services layer that lasts for 20 years.
And the key metric there becomes operational uptime. The document actually mentions a really specific role here that stood out to me, SAPs. That stands for Senior Authorized Persons Right.
That's the one. In the high voltage world, these people are the absolute safety gatekeepers. You literally cannot switch on the power or do any maintenance without them.
Wow.
Yeah, and Envo is flagging this as a critical shortage area because you can't just train an SAP overnight. It takes years and years of experience to get that specific authorization.
So you have the grid bottleneck and you have the long-term maintenance teams, and then you have the third vertical, which honestly seems to be attracting the most institutional capital right now, BESS, or battery energy storage systems.
Right, and this is where the engineering gets really hard. A lot of people think BESS is just plugging in a giant battery pack, but the source emphasizes that Envo is hunting for what they call technical authorities.
I assume because the financial risk is just so much higher there.
Oh, much higher. You are dealing with incredibly complex SCADA systems. That's the control architecture and performance engineering. If the battery creates too much heat or degrades too fast or doesn't discharge at the exact millisecond the market needs it, the asset becomes a massive financial liability.
So Envo is explicitly avoiding generic green hiring to headhunt these highly specific technical leaders.
Precisely. They are targeting high-fee, hard-to-fill roles where the technical rigor is non-negotiable.
It's fascinating that across all three verticals, Grid O&M and BESS, the underlying theme is technical specificity. They are completely moving away from generalists.
They are, and that brings us to the broader implication for the labor market as a whole. The UK market has clearly matured. The big money isn't in the dream or the intent of renewable energy anymore. It's entirely in the capacity to actually connect and operate it.
Which leaves us with a really difficult question to wrap up our deep dive today. As these Gate 2 reforms ruthlessly kill off unviable paper projects, what actually happens to all the talent stuck in those early-stage development roles?
That is the million-dollar question. We have a ton of development managers out there who are fantastic at finding land and shaking hands, but can they actually retrain for the rigorous technical demands of grid compliance and high-voltage operations?
Or are we just staring down the barrel of a massive skills mismatch where we have high unemployment in green jobs, but a desperate, severe shortage of the actual engineers needed to keep the lights on?
It's a very real possibility, and something the entire industry has to face very soon.
Definitely something for you to chew on as you watch this space evolve. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.